Ridge Forrester had buried many secrets in his life, but something about Luna's death didn't sit right. It wasn't grief. It was instinct. The funeral had felt rushed. The body had never been fully seen. The casket had been closed. The medical files sparse. There had been too many inconsistencies, too many missing pieces. And then came the bandage. A bloodied piece of gauze recovered from a shipping container near a private clinic in Santa Barbara. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't logged. But the DNA trace on it matched Luna's. Fresh. Not post-mortem. That changed everything. Ridge couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. He confronted Steffi first. She was still reeling from the fallout in Europe, managing the split between public sympathy and internal unrest at Forrester Creations. When Ridge presented the gauze, she didn't doubt its significance. She ordered security to comb through everything. The clinic's access records, the logistics logs from the day of Luna's death, even Forrester's own parking garage. One file stood out, partial camera footage of a figure in black fleeing through the staff entrance on the day Luna had been declared dead. The image was grainy, obstructed by shadows, but a single detail popped. The person had a visible surgical scar running diagonally along the side of their cheek, fresh, taut, and unmistakable. Steffi ran the footage against hospital logs. No matches. But Ridge had a theory. He brought it to Lee. Dr. Lee Finnegan had always kept secrets, clinical, personal, surgical. She'd once hidden Finn's survival from the world. She had always believed the ends justified the means. Ridge didn't accuse her directly. He didn't have to. He simply placed the gauze on her desk, alongside a still image from the camera footage. She stared at it. Her hands trembled. Then she said quietly, "I never wanted this to happen." Ridge leaned forward. "What did you do?" Lee stood. Her composure cracked. "Luna wasn't dead," she said. "She was shot. Critically. But I got to her in time. There was no guarantee she'd survive, and I knew if anyone found out she was alive, the investigation would rip through all of us. She was underage. She was somewhere she shouldn't have been. Her blood was on Steffi's floor. If the police came for answers, if the truth came out too fast, you know what it would have done to this family. To me. So I made a decision. I declared her dead. I moved her off the grid. I stabilized her privately under a different name. I thought, maybe I could fix her. Give her a new identity. Give her time. And then tell the truth. But I was wrong. So wrong. Ridge stared at her in disbelief. "You let us bury an empty casket." Lee nodded, almost in a whisper. "Yes. I didn't think she'd wake up. And if she did, I didn't think she'd remember what happened. But Luna did." She had been recovering slowly in a private home outside Ventura, monitored under a false identity, drugged for compliance, her body healing but her mind fragmented. Until one morning she looked in the mirror, saw the scar on her shoulder, and remembered the gunshot. The face. The pain. The betrayal. And Steffi. Luna hadn't wanted to believe it at first. But the memories came back in flashes. The argument in the hallway. The struggle. The gun going off. The moment Steffi pulled the trigger. Not in self-defense, but in panic. Luna hadn't threatened her. She had discovered something. A truth. A link between the Marone inheritance and a falsified paternity report buried in the Forrester archives. Something Steffi was desperate to bury. Luna hadn't gone to the press. She'd gone to confront her. And for that, Steffi had pulled the trigger. Now, awake, aware, and regaining strength, Luna's grief had hardened into something colder. She hadn't just lost blood. She'd lost her voice. Her place in the family. Her future. She watched news coverage of her own funeral. She saw her mother crying. She saw the lies. And she made a vow. She would return. And she would burn everything Steffi built to the ground. Meanwhile, Steffi was in full control damage mode. When Ridge confronted her about the footage, she played innocent. "It could be anyone," she said. "People sneak in and out of Forrester all the time. but her voice was tight. Her eyes kept darting to her phone. And when Thomas pressed her later, she snapped, "Don't start with me, Thomas. You weren't there." Back at the clinic, Ridge had Lee's full confession on tape. He brought it to Taylor, now returned from Zurich, trying to make sense of her fractured family. Taylor was stunned. "She manipulated death," she whispered. "Do you realize what this means legally? Ethically?" Ridge nodded. "It means we have to find Luna before someone else does." But Luna was already moving. She had tracked down her old contacts. She got a burner phone. She called her cousin Poppy in secret, asking for documents, records, leverage. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't want it. What she wanted was exposure. Not just of Steffi, but of everyone who had buried the truth and walked away. Within days, mysterious envelopes began arriving at Forrester offices. Anonymous. Containing photographs of Luna alive. Medical charts. Handwritten notes signed with only one phrase. "Justice isn't dead. Hope opened one." So did Carter. So did Thomas. Whispers spread like fire. Ridge knew it was only a matter of time before the press got wind. He tried to contact Luna through Lee, but she had disappeared. Gone underground. Then, late one night, Ridge returned to his car in the Forrester garage and found a single photo on the windshield, Luna, standing outside the gates of the Forrester mansion, eyes locked on the camera, face healed, but full of fury. The caption beneath. Asterisk, "You took everything. Now I'll take it back." Asterisk, the next morning, a new crisis hit. An investor pulled out of a Forrester fashion partnership citing internal dishonesty and public relations instability. Another threatened lawsuit for wrongful death claims now falls. Carter scrambled to do damage control. Steffi called an emergency board meeting. But the fractures were already showing. Ridge stood at the head of the table. "We lied to the public. We held a funeral for a girl who was never dead. We hid medical truths. And now we may face federal charges if this explodes." Steffi fired back. Asterisk, "I asterisk didn't hide her. That was Lee." Ridge slammed the table. "You shot her, Steffi. You pulled the trigger." Silence. Thomas stood. "Is that true?" Steffi didn't answer. Ridge turned to Lee. "If we don't come forward now, this company burns. If Luna goes public first, we lose everything. Reputation. Capital. Trust." Lee, stone-faced, whispered, "Then we better get ahead of her. Or pray she doesn't come back." But Luna was already here. In the shadows of LA, preparing her entrance. Rebuilding her strength. Reclaiming her voice. And when she returned, there would be no press conference. Only reckoning. No one saw Daphne's return coming. Least of all Carter. It had been years since they'd spoken. Years since the fire between them burned out, or so he thought. But when she walked back into Los Angeles, into his life, and into Forrester creations like nothing had changed, Carter's entire world tilted on its axis. Daphne wasn't there by accident. She came back with a purpose, to make peace with the past, to reclaim what she'd lost, and maybe, just maybe, to see if the love she once had with Carter could still be salvaged. Carter had moved on, or at least tried to. He had found something stable with Hope. It wasn't the explosive passion he'd known with Daphne, but it was real, grounded, calm. Hope brought light into his life after years of emotional chaos. She made him feel seen and safe. She was kind, attentive, warm. But lately, things had changed. Hope had become consumed by Liam's unraveling life, his constant crises, his back-and-forth emotions, his struggles with his identity as a father and a husband. Hope, as always, stepped in to help. She dropped everything to support Liam. His therapy, his custody battles, his emotional spirals. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Carter began to fade into the background. He didn't blame her, not at first. Hope had always carried the emotional weight of the people she loved. But as the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, Carter couldn't shake the growing ache inside him. He felt sidelined, like a supporting actor in a play he used to co-write. He tried to talk to her, but every conversation returned to Liam. Every plan got postponed. Every romantic gesture went unnoticed. And that's when Daphne appeared. She hadn't changed much. Still striking, still sharp, still unpredictable in all the ways that once made Carter lose control. But she wasn't reckless this time. She was softer, more grounded. She said all the right things. She was sorry for how things ended. She understood why Carter had walked away, but she never stopped thinking about him. She admitted to running from her feelings, to being scared of what they had, and most of all, to regretting how she left. At first, Carter kept his distance. He was with Hope. He didn't cheat, didn't flirt. But Daphne knew how to get under his skin. She asked about his life, his work, his dreams. She remembered things Hope never asked. She listened, not to respond, but to understand. It didn't help that Hope had canceled their last 3 date nights, or that she was spending more nights at Liam's place, checking in on the kids, on Liam's emotional stability, on things Carter had no role in. Daphne, on the other hand, was always available, always present, always looking at him like he mattered. One evening, Carter and Daphne ran into each other after a late meeting. She was heading out. He was heading in. It should have been a quick exchange. Instead, they stood there in silence, the tension thick. Daphne leaned in, whispered, "Do you ever think about us?" Carter didn't answer. He didn't have to. She knew. The next day, Daphne invited him to dinner. Just as friends, she said. But Carter didn't tell Hope. He didn't lie, he just didn't mention it. That dinner stretched into hours. Wine flowed. Laughter returned. Old memories surfaced. Carter remembered what it felt like to be wanted. Truly wanted. And when Daphne touched his hand lightly, intentionally, he didn't pull away. Meanwhile, Hope remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully blind. She told herself Carter understood her loyalty to Liam, her sense of responsibility. But she didn't notice how distant Carter had become, how distracted, how short his texts had gotten. She didn't see how often he checked his phone and sighed when it wasn't her. She assumed they were just going through a quiet phase. She didn't know a storm was brewing right under her nose. Carter tried to end it before it began. He told Daphne they couldn't do this, that he was with someone else. Daphne smiled, nodded, and said, "I'm not asking you to cheat. I'm asking you to feel. If there's still something between us, don't lie to yourself. Because I'm not lying to myself anymore." The guilt began to gnaw at Carter. He avoided Hope. He canceled lunch. He skipped their weekend hike. And still, she didn't press. She was too distracted with Liam again. One night, Carter stood outside her place, gift in hand, ready to try again. But through the window, he saw her comforting Liam, cradling his head against her shoulder. It wasn't romantic. Not exactly. But it was intimate. Too intimate. And Carter turned around and walked away. He ended up at Daphne's apartment. They didn't sleep together that night. But the emotional infidelity was undeniable. He told her everything. How he felt forgotten, how he felt like a placeholder in Hope's life, how he missed being someone's priority. Daphne listened, then simply said, "You deserve to be chosen." That stuck with him. Hope noticed the change eventually. She came home one night and found Carter packing a small bag. She asked where he was going. He didn't lie. "I need space," he said. "I need to figure out if I'm still in a relationship, or just holding on to the idea of one." Hope was blindsided. "Because I've been helping Liam?" she asked. "Because I've been invisible," Carter replied. She tried to pull him back, promised to make more time, to prioritize them. But it was too late. The distance had grown too wide. Carter didn't say the name, but Hope could feel her presence like a ghost between them. "Is there someone else?" she asked. Silence. That was her answer. In the days that followed, Carter moved out. Daphne didn't rush him, didn't press. She let him process. But the door was open. Hope tried to salvage what she could. She reached out, sent messages, tried to reconnect. But Carter didn't respond. He was tired of being an afterthought. And Liam, grateful for Hope's support, unknowingly deepened the wedge. And as he stood beside Daphne 1 week later at an art gala, her arm around his, her presence steady and warm, he realized something. Maybe the past didn't have to stay broken. Maybe the flames they'd once feared could be tamed. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't looking backward anymore. He was ready to begin again, even if it meant leaving Hope behind.